Some things are impossible to know, but it is impossible to know these things.
Hello, good day, and welcome to
Paul Schindler, podcast on things is here for you.
Not surprisingly, I'm your host, Paul Schindler. Thank you for listening.
RIP Tom Lehrer, 1928 to 2025, age 97. If you want a normal obituary, go somewhere else. The internet is full of them. Or check out Tom's excellent Wikipedia entry. This is just my personal take on a great man and a great musician, even if he was a Harvard graduate of the class of 46. Tom Lehrer was the soundtrack of my life. My parents loved the television show That Was the Week That Was when I was 11. Since we only had one TV, when they watched it, I watched it. I was precocious, so I understood nearly all the satire since I read the newspaper every day. From that and TV, I knew of Sheriff Clark in Birmingham using a fire hose on demonstrators. The lyric, "Sheriff Clark and Lena Horne are dancing cheek to cheek," was thus my favorite line in his song National Brotherhood Week. There were 50 shows in 63 through 65 of That Was the Week That Was. I feel certain I watched all of them. My parents bought what was probably the 1976 release, That Was the Year That Was. I wore it out. And yet, things heated up once I went to MIT. I joined WTBS, now WMBR, immediately on arrival in the fall of 1970, a mere 5 years after their broadcast of Tom Lehrer's Subway Song, composed in 1944 and sung by the composer on WTBS in 1965. A rarity because its hyper-local content made it meaningless to listeners out of the hub of the universe. Talk about humble brag, that was Boston's self-adopted name for itself. Everyone at the station was a fan and busting their buttons about what was probably the first broadcast of the Subway Song. Fans also abounded at the Tech, the MIT newspaper. The special favorite was the Vatican Rag. Everyone on the staff knew the lyrics, and my friends John Hansel, a Catholic, and Norman Sandler, who was Jewish, had a dance routine they performed to the song, usually accompanied by them singing it a cappella. They often performed in the newsroom, and they performed it at my wedding as well. It's no wonder then that I used the music for a love song. During his half-century of withdrawal from the public eye, Lehrer granted only 1 or 2 interviews and only performed once or twice. He made himself really hard to find, and since he preceded the internet age, there wasn't much to go on. But a diligent search by a talented researcher, modesty forbids, discovered that throughout his wanderings, including his years at UC Santa Cruz, he'd maintained his undergraduate address. I knew he did not respond to fan mail, but I sent him some anyway, shortly after I wrote my song. Since everything reminds me of a story, and the story is always about me. August 30th, 2022, Tom Lehrer, 11 Sparks Street, Cambridge, Mass. Dear Mr. Lehrer, first, let me thank you for a lifetime of entertainment. Also, I salute your unusual and magnanimous decision to release your music and lyrics into the public domain. I imagine you hoped for, or even expected, something like a love song set to the tune of Vatican Rag. That's the wind-up. Here's the pitch. I'd be pleased and honored if you'd take a look at my performance of When Your Hand's Upon My Knee. Finally, a little gratuitous background. I met you once when you came to MIT Student House in 1971. At the invitation of your student, Kathy Buckley, I couldn't get into your seminar, and part as it took me 3 tries to pass calculus. 2 years ago, at age 68, I started writing love poems to my wife of 42 years. After she read the poem, When Your Hand's Upon My Knee, she asked me to set it to music. Usually, I pay a Welsh freelancer to do that. He's been the Sullivan to my Gilbert a dozen times. I was just about to pay him for a new tune when a bell went off. I've been singing Vatican Rag since the 1970s, and I suddenly realized the poem essentially fit the music. The only response I expect for or hope for is to bring a smile to your lips. Sincerely, Paul Schindler. Speaking of Harvard, or not if you went there, I have written before about the Harvard humble brag. I don't know if Lehrer ever said, when asked, I went to school in Cambridge. Since he spent a decade teaching math to political scientists at MIT, which is also in Cambridge, he probably didn't say that since he knew there was another major school in Cambridge, which, it appears, many Harvard grads don't know. I assume Humble Brag 101 is still a mandatory course at Harvard. It always tickles me when I hear it, since I can then say, oh, you went to MIT too? Here is this week's walk-off music, but first, that's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler. Thanks for listening. Now, our walk-off music is an homage to Tom Lehrer, set to one of my favorite tunes of his, Vatican Rag. My version, a love song, is entitled When Your Hand Is on My Knee. But first, you know how Marvel movies always have an Easter egg at the end? Well, your reward for listening to this whole song is a rarity. Tom Lehrer sings the MTA song on my college radio station, WTBS. When your hand's upon my knee, no place else I'd rather be. I saw it first as we went out, and I'm sure without a doubt, it doesn't matter where or when, your touch will thrill me once again. 2, 4, 6, 8, time to say you're really great. I know because of what you said, you think it's odd, perhaps ill-bred. You think my love is too much drama, you think it should be aimed at Amma. You think that I should love a saint, which you've said you surely ain't. 3, 5, 7, 9, time to say you're quite divine. I hear you but can't agree. What I feel I plainly see. You touch my knee or hand or thigh, you always make me heave a sigh. I fear the man to whom you're hitched, can't help being so bewitched. 2, 4, 6, 8, you are an amazing mate. Please keep touching me, my dear, as that act brings you quite near. You know the ode I have written to demonstrate how deep I've knitten. Every single thing I do is better proximate to you. 2, 4, 6, 8, time to say you're really great.
H is for my alma mater, Harvard. C is Central, next stop on the line. K is for the cozy Kendall Station, and C is Charles that overlooks the brine. Up P is Pack Street, busy Boston Center, and W is Washington, you see. Put them all together, they spell which is just about what Boston means to me.
That's beautiful.
From the old days. A historical curiosity.
You wrote that how long ago? 20 years?
21 years ago, right?
21 years ago. It's still very, very
and
true.
And it's still a classic. Right. You never hear it anymore.